Archaeologists discovered a strange ice mummy, but the secret behind it shocked the entire world. In the summer of 1993, a groundbreaking discovery occurred in the icy lands of the Altai Mountains in Siberia, Russia. When Russian archaeologists excavated a burial mound on the remote Ukok Plateau, an isolated area near the Chinese border, they never imagined that beneath the permafrost lay one of the most mysterious and best-preserved mummies ever found in Asia. This was the Siberian Ice Maiden, also known by legendary names such as the Ukok Princess or the Altai Princess Ochibala. The mummy was the frozen body of a young woman, estimated to be between 20 and 30 years old, belonging to the ancient Pazyryk culture that flourished in the 5th century AD. The remarkable preservation of her body and the accompanying burial artifacts opened a rare time portal, offering humanity a deeper look into the mysterious world of the Pazyryk people, a nomadic tribe that once lived on the Siberian steppes. As the archaeological team dug deeper into what was believed to be an ancient tomb, they discovered a completely frozen wooden chamber. To avoid damaging the artifacts, they melted the ice carefully using warm water. What emerged was a finely carved larchwood coffin, accompanied by 2 small wooden tables holding horse meat, lamb, and remnants of dairy-based food, possibly yogurt, stored in a handled wooden vessel along with a stirring tool. One striking detail was the presence of 6 horses buried alongside her, all facing east, a direction believed to hold spiritual significance in many ancient cultures, including Egypt and the Pazyryk. According to Dr. Natalia Polosmak, the lead archaeologist, the east symbolized rebirth, and the inclusion of horses indicated the deceased held a high status in society. When they opened the coffin, the team was initially disappointed. The body and burial items were still encased in thick ice, but as the ice slowly melted under warm water, what they saw stunned the entire archaeological community. A perfectly preserved female mummy, covered with elaborate tattoos on her shoulders, arms, and even her thumb. These tattoos were far from decorative. They depicted mythical creatures like winged leopards, deer with bird-like beaks and massive antlers, as well as powerful animals such as lions and rams. Notably, many of the tattoos were rotated 180 degrees, prompting speculation about their spiritual or magical significance. The mummy was immediately transferred to a research center in Novosibirsk, where experts performed a series of advanced tests, including MRI scans, DNA analysis, and even facial reconstruction. Through this, they confirmed that the woman was about 25 years old at the time of death and suffered from 2 severe conditions, osteomyelitis and late-stage breast cancer. Researchers identified a primary tumor in her right breast and signs of metastasis in her lymph nodes, indicating that she had endured extreme pain for an extended period before dying. It is believed she was brought to the Ukok Plateau, a sacred site for the Pazyryk people, so that her soul could rest and reunite with her ancestors. Initially, many assumed she was a princess or member of royalty. However, later archaeological evidence, especially a woolen headdress adorned with gold leaf and embroidered with 15 different bird species, led scientists to theorize that she may have been a shaman or spiritual priestess. The symbols on the hat perfectly match descriptions in Pazyryk culture associated with such a sacred role. This would also explain the elaborate burial and the inclusion of valuable offerings like fine horses and ritual food. Interestingly, although DNA tests confirmed she was part of the Pazyryk culture, the indigenous Altai people believe the Siberian Ice Maiden is one of their ancestors. They have demanded that her remains be returned to their original resting place. Some locals even believe that disturbing her tomb disrupted the spiritual world, angering nature itself. They point to a massive 7.3 magnitude earthquake that struck the Altai region in 2003, an event that killed 8 people and caused between $10.6 million and $33 million in damage, as divine retribution. Today, the Siberian Ice Maiden is more than just an archaeological mummy. She's become a symbol of mystery, spirituality, and cultural controversy. Her tattoos, illnesses, burial, and accompanying rituals have offered scientists a rare glimpse into the life, beliefs, and societal complexity of an ancient Siberian world. And as you can see, the question of her true identity remains unanswered. But one thing is certain: she has become an eternal witness to the history and spiritual legacy of a long-lost civilization buried beneath the permafrost. Yet, this ice mummy is not the only astonishing discovery. In recent years, beneath the thick, eternal ice, archaeologists and scientists have uncovered numerous fascinating and sometimes eerie findings that challenge our understanding of the ancient world. So now I ask you, are you curious to know what these other discoveries are? If so, let's continue this journey together to uncover the stories and artifacts hidden deep within the frozen past. The Inca Ice Maiden Mummy, Momia Juanita. On September 8, 1995, during an archaeological expedition to the majestic Mount Ampato in the Andes Mountains of southern Peru, archaeologist Johann Reinhard and his assistant Miguel Zarate made a discovery that shocked the world. They successfully unearthed the nearly perfectly preserved mummy of a young girl from the ancient Inca civilization. She became known as Momia Juanita, or more hauntingly, the Inca Ice Maiden. Her frozen body wasn't just a relic suspended in time, it was horrifying evidence of a brutal sacrificial ritual called capacocha, a sacred yet blood-soaked ceremony in the religion of the ancient Inca. According to researchers, Momia Juanita was only around 12 to 15 years old when she died. She was a beautiful, healthy girl, chosen as the perfect offering to be given to the gods. In the capacocha ritual, the Inca would select the most physically and spiritually ideal children, free of illness or deformities, for sacrifice during significant events like droughts, earthquakes, or royal anniversaries. It was believed that offering the most pure and precious they had would appease the gods, bring abundant harvests, protect them from natural disasters, and maintain balance between the human world and the supernatural. Juanita's death was directly tied to the mountain where she was found, Mount Ampato, a now extinct volcano once believed by the Inca to be a dwelling place of the gods. It's believed that she was led up this mountain by priests, a grueling journey lasting several days, and offered as a sacred gift to the mountain deity. But the end for Juanita was chillingly cruel. X-ray scans revealed that she had been struck on the head with a powerful blow from a blunt object, causing fatal internal bleeding in the brain, a silent death in the thin air, and bone-chilling cold of the high Andes. What's remarkable is that Juanita's body was preserved almost perfectly thanks to the harsh natural conditions of her final resting place. The freezing temperatures at the summit of Ampato preserved her skin, hair, and even her internal organs for over 500 years. She was wrapped in thick woolen cloth and placed inside a ritual bundle. Alongside her remains were numerous ceremonial offerings, miniature clay figurines, gold ornaments, seashells from distant coasts, food, coca leaves, and chicha, a type of corn beer commonly used in Inca rituals. These were sacred gifts to the gods, symbols of human reverence and hope for the world beyond life. The discovery of Juanita was partially accidental. Prior to her unearthing, a nearby volcano had erupted, sending hot ash into the atmosphere and causing the snow and ice on Ampato's summit to melt. It was this thaw that exposed Juanita's body, which had slid partway down the mountainside, where Reinhard and his team discovered her. 1 month later, during a second expedition to the mountain, they found 2 more child mummies at a lower elevation, also believed to have been victims of the capacocha ritual. Possibly sacrificed on the same occasion, Juanita was taken to the summit. Today, Momia Juanita's remains are kept under strict climate-controlled conditions at the Museo Santuarios Andinos, a museum in the city of Arequipa, not far from where she once lay frozen in silence. Visitors often shudder when facing her serene expression, her still visible black hair, and her hauntingly fetal sitting posture. Some feel sorrow, others feel fear, but all agree that Juanita is not just a mummy. She is a living witness to faith, to extreme devotion, and to the hidden pain behind the mystical veil of a once mighty empire that thrived atop the Andes. The Ötzi Iceman Mummy and the Curse that allegedly caused 7 mysterious deaths. On September 19, 1991, deep in the snow-covered Alps, 2 German hikers were making their way through the Ötztal Alps on the border between Austria and Italy when they stumbled upon something extraordinary. Emerging from the thick, icy layers was a human body, eerily well-preserved. It turned out to be the oldest natural mummy ever discovered in Europe, estimated to be around 5,300 years old. He was named Ötzi, after the place where he was found. But from that moment on, a series of inexplicable mysteries began to unfold, ones that would shock the world, not just for their archaeological significance, but because of the deathly aftermath many would come to call the Curse of the Iceman. The autopsy on the mysterious mummy was carried out at Hauslabjoch, a location that lies directly on the Austrian-Italian border. Thanks to the freezing conditions, the body had been naturally preserved, with soft tissues, skin, and even internal organs remaining astonishingly intact. Scientists confirmed that the mummy was a male, approximately 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing about 110 pounds, and likely died between the ages of 30 and 45. Yet what puzzled researchers the most was not his age or gender, but the haunting question: what was this man doing high up in the icy mountains at a time when writing hadn't even been invented? Ötzi was found with an assortment of strange belongings: a copper axe with a yew wood handle, a weapon considered extremely rare and valuable for its time, a quiver of arrows, a flint blade dagger, a small pouch of dried mushrooms, fire-starting tools, a game-carrying pouch, a sharpening stone, and a scabbard. Clearly, he was not simply a shepherd, as earlier theories had assumed. Pollen analysis from his stomach revealed that he had traveled a long distance in his final days, crossing multiple climate zones in just a short span, suggesting he may have been fleeing from something or undertaking a special mission. Wound analysis on the mummy also exposed shocking secrets. Ötzi had been shot in the left shoulder with an arrow, suffered a deep gash on his hand, and sustained a major blow to the head, likely the cause of death. Traces of blood from 4 different individuals were also found on his body, indicating that he had been in a fight before his death. One theory suggests he was ambushed and murdered. But what's strange is that his body hadn't been looted. His weapons and tools were untouched, leading some to speculate that his death may have been part of a ritual or that it was connected to an ancient curse. However, what truly cemented Ötzi's legendary status wasn't just his scientific value, but the mysterious string of deaths that followed among those who studied or came into close contact with him. At least 7 people linked to the discovery, examination, and research of the mummy have died under odd circumstances. The first was Dr. Rainer Henn, a renowned forensic pathologist from the University of Innsbruck who died in a car crash while en route to a conference about Ötzi. Then came Kurt Fritz, a mountain guide who was killed in an avalanche. Rainer Holtz, who directed a documentary about the excavation, died of a brain tumor. The list goes on. Helmut Simon, one of the 2 hikers who first found the mummy, died after falling from a waterfall. The head of the rescue team that searched for Simon's body, Dieter Warnecke, died of a heart attack just hours after Simon's funeral. Konrad Spindler, the lead archaeologist who initially studied Ötzi, died from a rare disease. Finally, Tom Loy, a molecular archaeologist who discovered blood traces on the mummy, passed away from a rare blood disorder. All of these deaths have scientific explanations, of course, but the uncanny timing and direct connections to Ötzi have led many to believe that the 300-year-old mummy carries with it an ancient curse. A 56,000-year-old frozen wolf pup mummy. Hidden deep within the frigid permafrost of Yukon, Canada, for over 56,000 years, a shocking discovery emerged, one that sent ripples through the scientific world. It was the perfectly preserved mummy of a young wolf pup, later named Jure. Researchers described it as the oldest and most complete specimen ever discovered in the history of prehistoric animal archaeology. What made this discovery even more astonishing was that it didn't happen in a high-tech laboratory, but was instead unearthed by a gold miner working in the Klondike mining area near Dawson City. While digging through the frozen ground, hoping to find gold, not a nearly intact creature frozen in time, he stumbled upon this extraordinary find. What makes Jure so remarkable isn't just its incredible age, more than 56,000 years, but the fact that it's so unbelievably well preserved. The mummy still retains its soft fur, skin, muscle tissue, and even the internal bone structure. Just one look, and it seems as if this little pup had merely fallen asleep in the ice, ready to open its eyes at any moment. According to Associate Professor Julie Meechan, an anatomy specialist at Des Moines University in Iowa, this is an archaeological treasure of immense value, not only because of its pristine condition, but also because of the wealth of historical data it carries. Using modern X-ray imaging, researchers determined that Jure died at just 6 to 7 weeks old. This confirms that the pup was still very young and likely not yet weaned from its mother. Even more fascinating, stable isotope analysis revealed that this little wolf once lived during a transitional climate period, right as the glaciers began to retreat. It was a time of relative environmental richness, marked by an abundance of fresh water, underground springs, diverse ecosystems, and thriving wildlife. No longer fully encased in ice, the land provided ideal conditions for animal life to flourish, including ancient wolves. Chemical traces preserved within the pup's body brought yet another surprise. Jour's diet, and likely that of her mother, included not only terrestrial prey like deer and caribou, but also salmon and river birds. Their environment, rich in freshwater sources, resulted in a far more diverse diet than previously assumed. This insight reveals the wolves' adaptive lifestyle during the Ice Age, a time when survival depended heavily on the harsh climate conditions. DNA analysis of Jour allowed scientists, for the first time, to reconstruct the genetic family tree of Ice Age wolves. The results showed that this little pup descended from a lineage of ancient wolves originating from Russia, Siberia, and Alaska, forebears of today's modern gray wolves. However, Meechan emphasized that despite belonging to the same species, Ice Age wolves were significantly different from those we know today. Tens of thousands of years of evolution had dramatically reshaped their genome, reflecting adaptations to extreme climatic shifts. One particularly unique factor behind Jour's incredible preservation is the way she died. For her body to remain intact for so long, she had to have perished under extremely rare conditions. Her remains must have been instantly covered by permafrost, soil that remains frozen year-round, completely halting the decomposition process. As Meechan explained, if the body had been exposed on the surface for even a short time, it would have decayed due to bacteria or become food for scavengers. Only a rapid fall into cold enough ice can lead to natural mummification. Based on the excavation site and the condition of the body, experts suspect that Jour may have died suddenly inside her den, possibly due to a sudden ice collapse. This would explain why the corpse shows no signs of trauma, starvation, or struggle. Death came quickly, and the permafrost sealed the little creature in time for tens of thousands of years, like a frozen snapshot from Earth's ancient past. Today, Jour's mummy is considered a biological black box, preserving vital clues about the environment, climate, ecosystems, and species evolution during the Ice Age. In the world of archaeology, this discovery is more than just the story of a little wolf. It is a gateway to a distant, untamed age of our planet, where every strand of fur, every sliver of ice, and every fragment of DNA tells secrets that history books never wrote. 35,000-year-old frozen saber-toothed cat mummy. In 2020, a discovery that stunned the archaeological world took place in the icy wilderness of Siberia. Researchers unearthed a remarkably well-preserved mummy of a saber-toothed cat buried deep within the permafrost for tens of thousands of years. This finding wasn't just a milestone in paleontology, it offered a rare glimpse into the ancient predator that once ruled the frozen lands of Asia during the Ice Age. According to analysis, the animal died approximately 35,000 years ago, at only about 3 weeks old. It belonged to a now extinct species of saber-toothed cat known scientifically as Homotherium latidens. What shocked scientists wasn't just the specimen's age, but its near-perfect preservation. Despite lying frozen beneath the earth for over 3 millennia, the animal still retained its whiskers, claws, and portions of soft tissue, an incredibly rare occurrence in paleozoological archaeology. The remains included intact pelvic bones, femurs, and lower leg bones, all still connected to the small body of the young saber-toothed cat. And yet, the cause of death remains an unsolved mystery. This discovery holds tremendous significance because Homotherium latidens had long been considered extinct, with only fragmentary fossil evidence ever found. This specimen, however, offers scientists an unprecedented opportunity, not only to better understand the evolutionary biology and environmental adaptations of these Ice Age predators, but also to trace their final geographic distribution at the end of the Pleistocene epoch, the last phase of the Ice Age. According to the team from the Borisiak Paleontological Institute, for years, the presence of Homotherium latidens across the Eurasian continent had only been confirmed through fossils dating from the Middle Pleistocene, around 770,000 to 126,000 years ago. That's what makes this discovery so remarkable. It provides rare evidence that the species may have survived into the late Pleistocene as recently as 35,000 years ago, much later than previously thought. This raises a fascinating question. Did Homotherium latidens truly go extinct as early as we once believed? Further analysis revealed that this species had extraordinary adaptations for cold environments. When researchers compared the saber-toothed cat mummy to that of an African lion, Panthera leo, of a similar age, the contrasts were striking. The saber-toothed cat had broader paws, allowing it to walk more efficiently on snow, and its ankle joints lacked shock-absorbing pads, suggesting it was built for speed and agility in harsh terrain. Its thick, soft fur functioned like a natural thermal armor, shielding it from the brutal cold of the polar steppe, a vital survival advantage during the Ice Age. But the saber-toothed cat had more than just cold weather adaptations. It also possessed a suite of unique anatomical features that made it a formidable predator: elongated, razor-sharp canine teeth, a wide jaw, small ears to minimize heat loss, long forelimbs, and a thick, muscular neck, all designed for hunting and overpowering prey with precision and strength. Its coat likely had darker hues, potentially to better absorb heat in frigid conditions. This discovery doesn't just bring us closer to visualizing a legendary predator that once prowled the frozen tundra, it also helps reconstruct the rich ecological tapestry of the Pleistocene, a time when modern humans, woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and saber-toothed cats coexisted in a brutally cold but teeming world. And most intriguingly, it leaves us pondering an even bigger mystery. How many more prehistoric creatures lie silently entombed beneath Siberia's eternal ice, waiting for the day humanity uncovers them, and with them, an awe-inspiring past that still slumbers just beneath our feet? Archaeologists found an ancient tomb in Siberia, but what was inside shocked them. Have you ever imagined that, in the frozen, desolate lands of Siberia, horse-drawn chariots once rolled across the steppes thousands of years ago? Then, like a whisper from the past, an ancient tomb, perfectly preserved for over 3 millennia, was unearthed, transporting us back to a time when chariot drivers stood at the center of power and daily life. Incredible, right? But this isn't fiction. It's a real discovery that left the archaeological world stunned. In the Askiski district of Khakassia, a mysterious region deep within Siberia, a team of Russian archaeologists led by Dr. Alexei Timoshchenko uncovered a 3,000-year-old burial site. What made this tomb extraordinary wasn't just its remarkable preservation, but the powerful story it told about a long-lost culture, the Bronze Age Lugov civilization. Atop a carefully constructed burial mound, beneath a square arrangement of stones, lay the remains of a man believed to have been a chariot driver, someone who likely held significant status within his community. Beside his skeleton were stunning bronze artifacts, a dagger, jewelry, and most intriguingly, a metal belt with a hooked attachment. For years, archaeologists referred to this strange item as a PNN, an object with no known purpose. But recent discoveries in ancient tombs across China and Mongolia have shed light on its function. The hooked accessory was likely designed to fasten the reins to the driver's waist, helping them control the horses while steering the chariot. In a way, this was the steering wheel of the Bronze Age, a prehistoric version of a modern car's wheel. The striking similarities between artifacts found in Siberia, China, and Mongolia suggest that advanced civilizations once flourished across this vast region, with deep cultural exchange between them. The chariot system, it turns out, wasn't confined to one isolated area, but may have spread widely across the Eurasian steppe, something we never previously imagined. This leads us to a profound question. How could communities separated by thousands of miles have shared such sophisticated technology? Was there an ancient communication network that transcended both time and space? Dr. Timoshchenko also revealed that the man buried in the tomb belonged to the Lugov culture, a people whose livelihood was primarily based on livestock herding. But by the 8th century BCE, during the early Iron Age, they were replaced by the Scythians of the Tagar culture. This cultural transition may have marked the end of the Lugov chariot era, but the legacy they left behind, like this very tomb, continues to whisper their stories to us today. It's hard not to feel a chill when you realize that beneath our feet, where only cold, empty grasslands stretch today, once echoed the thunder of bronze-covered chariot wheels and the pounding hooves of war horses carried by the Siberian wind. Saying that this tomb is not merely a burial site, but a portal into a lost world, might sound dramatic, but it's absolutely true. And just when you think this ancient grave might be the most chilling discovery of all, think again. It's not the only one. Over the years, archaeologists have been tirelessly working and have unearthed countless incredible finds. More ancient tombs like this one, fully preserved mummies, hidden treasures, and strange artifacts that no one today can explain. Objects whose creation defies our understanding of ancient technology. So, stay with me through this video as we uncover what else has been found and what other secrets from the ancient past are waiting to be revealed. A 2,500-year-old headless mummy found in a peat bog in Northern Ireland. It all began in October 2023, when the Police Service of Northern Ireland announced the discovery of scattered human bones in a boggy area. The haunting crime scene images, along with the absence of a skull, led authorities to suspect a modern murder. However, when researchers began conducting detailed high-tech analyses, the entire narrative took a dramatic turn. What they had found wasn't the result of a recent crime, but the mysterious death of someone from the distant Iron Age. Despite being buried for thousands of years beneath layers of peat, the skeleton was astonishingly well preserved. The skin on the hands, toenails, and even a kidney, some of the softest and most fragile tissues, were still intact. This incredible preservation was thanks to the bog's cold, acidic, and oxygen-deprived environment, essentially forming a natural refrigeration chamber that kept these ancient human traces intact for millennia. Experts quickly determined that the remains belonged to a teenage boy, estimated to have died between the ages of 13 and 17. But the most disturbing detail? His body had no head. So what really happened here? Was he murdered? Or could this have been part of a ritual sacrifice, a practice that was known to exist among certain ancient Celtic cultures during the Iron Age? It's a difficult question to answer, but you might be surprised to know that throughout European archaeological history, bogs have been known to yield many bog bodies, individuals who were ritually sacrificed, often bearing marks of strangulation, stabbing, binding, or beheading. Could the headless corpse in Belugi have been part of one of these gruesome ceremonies? To uncover the truth, scientists applied radiocarbon dating for the first time on a bog body found in Northern Ireland. The analysis, conducted at the 14 Chrono Centre at Queen's University Belfast, confirmed that the individual had died sometime between 2,000 and 2,500 years ago. This time frame perfectly aligns with the era in which Celtic cultures thrived in the region, an age known for its deeply spiritual rituals and unusual burial practices. Taking the investigation even further, Dr. Alistair Ruffell and his research team performed high-resolution ground-penetrating radar surveys across the bog to determine the exact depth and geological context of the burial. Their findings revealed that the body was buried approximately 3.3 feet beneath the surface, surrounded by clusters of fossilized wood, evidence suggesting that the victim may have either been deliberately buried under layers of mud and forest debris or had been swept into the bog by a natural phenomenon. Everything about this discovery exudes mystery, something that stretches far beyond our imagination. The stillness and eerie atmosphere of the bog itself became a kind of time vault, where history lay sealed beneath cold mud and the passage of centuries. Although the identity of the headless boy may remain forever unknown, modern technology and humanity's relentless curiosity continue to peel back the layers of time, piece by piece, from deep within the earth. The 1,000-year-old remains of a German noblewoman, buried beside her husband. In the peaceful land of Saxony-Anhalt, once the political heart of the Holy Roman Empire under the reign of Otto I, a surprising archaeological discovery has left researchers stunned. It wasn't a treasure trove of gold or a grand palace, but rather a humble grave, the final resting place of two individuals who lived over 1,000 years ago. And yet, it was the simplicity of the site that concealed a haunting mystery. The skeletal remains of a woman laid to rest beside a man believed to be her husband, but with her face completely missing, leaving behind a chillingly empty skull. The excavation took place near the royal palace built by Emperor Otto the Great, the very ruler who founded the powerful empire that once dominated parts of Europe. There, archaeologists uncovered two skeletons buried side by side, suggesting an intimate relationship, most likely husband and wife. The man was tall and buried with iron objects such as a knife and belt, symbols of social status. Researchers believe he was a nobleman or official connected to a Frankish castle from the 9th century, as there were no signs indicating he had served as a soldier or warrior. However, what truly captured the archaeologists' attention was the woman's remains. Standing about 5 feet 1 inch tall, she was laid next to the man, yet her skull was missing the entire facial structure, an image both bizarre and deeply unsettling. At first, experts theorized that she may have died violently or had her face intentionally removed for unknown reasons. But after further analysis, Professor Felix Bierman from the University of Szczecin in Poland offered a more plausible explanation. The grave, being relatively shallow and close to the surface, may have been damaged in modern times, possibly by plowing machinery or even burrowing animals. Still, the absence of her face casts a shadow of sadness and mystery over her remains. Something about the way she was buried, or perhaps not fully honored, leaves the impression that she had been forgotten, especially when compared to the man beside her, who was laid to rest with his status visibly honored, while she had no grave goods at all. No bracelets, no hairpins, no bowls or jewelry, items typically found in the graves of noblewomen from the same period. This raises a difficult question. Were her grave goods stolen at some point, or was she simply never buried with them in the first place? The irony lies in the stark contrast between two people buried side by side at the same time, yet telling vastly different stories. One man was memorialized through symbols of power and prestige. One woman, perhaps his wife, was reduced to silent bones, faceless, nameless, and unadorned. They may have lived together, loved each other, and even held hands until the end of their days. But in death, they were treated very differently. This story is more than just an archaeological find. It's a vivid cross-section of medieval society. It reveals how roles, status, and even posthumous value were defined and divided between social classes, between men and women. On 300-year-old remains discovered with a tattoo of Jesus Christ. Hard to believe, isn't it? Yet recently, in an ancient cemetery near the ruins of the Ghazali Monastery in Sudan, once part of the legendary Nubian region, archaeologists unearthed the remains of a man bearing a sacred symbol tattooed on his body, a mark representing none other than Jesus Christ himself. Even more astonishing is where the tattoo was located, on the top of his right foot. This was not just a decorative tattoo, it was a silent yet powerful declaration of faith, etched into flesh, preserved through more than a millennium. To imagine the moment of discovery, picture this. Under the blistering heat of the Sudanese desert, an archaeologist gently brushes away the sands of time, only to stop in awe as the ancient Chi-Rho symbol gradually appears on the man's footbone, an early Christian monogram used to represent the name of Jesus. But that wasn't all. Accompanying the Chi-Rho were two Greek letters, Alpha and Omega, the first and last characters of the Greek alphabet, symbolizing the belief that Christ is the beginning and the end of all things. Is there any message more profound than that to express one's faith? What makes this discovery especially unique isn't just the sacred symbols themselves, but the precise placement of the tattoo on the right foot. Some researchers suggest this may directly relate to how Jesus was believed to have been nailed to the cross. Could it be that this man chose to bear the sacred mark on his foot as a way to physically unite himself with Christ's sacrifice for the rest of his life? While that question remains unanswered, researchers like Robert Stark from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw and Kari Gilbo from Purdue University believe the tattoo's location carries powerful symbolism, one that may reflect profound reverence for Christ. And yet, the man's identity remains a mystery. Though clearly a Christian, he was not buried among the clergy in the monastery's sacred grounds, but rather in the section designated for the local community. Carbon dating reveals that he lived sometime between AD 667 and 774, a period when Christianity had become a widely embraced faith throughout Nubia. This ancient region, stretching across present-day southern Egypt and northern Sudan, was once a vibrant center of civilization and religion. It wasn't just known for the Kushite pyramids, but also for its flourishing role in the spread of Christianity throughout East Africa. The fact that an ordinary man in this region would carry a tattoo of Jesus on his foot speaks volumes about the depth and reach of faith in that society. It also offers a window into how tattoos were used as expressions of personal belief, something modern culture and contemporary religious perspectives sometimes overlook. Skeleton of vampire child found, shackled in grave. A child only around 5 to 7 years old, who should have been laid to rest with love, embraced by prayers, was instead buried face down in the cold earth. A triangular shackle had been driven into the grave floor to lock down the child's leg, as if someone was trying to pin down a soul that must never return to the land of the living. No, you're not hearing it wrong. This isn't a scene from a horror movie, it's a real and chilling archaeological discovery made in the village of Pien, near Ostrołęka, Poland. The area was once home to a mysterious cemetery believed to be reserved for those labeled as vampires. Archaeologists uncovered the child's remains in an unmarked mass grave. What shocked them wasn't just the bizarre burial method, but what it revealed about the deep spiritual fears of ancient communities. The face-down burial and the shackle bolted into the ground weren't just acts of punishment, they were manifestations of a shared belief that unless the dead were spiritually sealed, they might rise again and bring disaster to the living. Villagers believed that vampires weren't just legends, they were real threats that had to be controlled at any cost, even after death. This eerie cemetery had also made headlines the year before when the same research team discovered the remains of a woman buried with a sharp sickle laid across her neck and a heavy iron lock clamped around her big toe. These methods were all forms of spiritual sealing, designed to prevent the dead from rising and returning to the world of the living. The graves of the child and the woman were only about 6.5 feet apart. This proximity suggests the cemetery may have been used to bury individuals who were shunned by the community, those who had been expelled from formal Christian graveyards. According to Professor Dariusz Polinsky of Nicholas Copernicus University, who led the excavation, the people buried here were likely seen as unfit to rest among the devout. Perhaps they behaved strangely in life, suffered from deforming illnesses, or died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. To 17th century villagers, such signs were enough to justify a terrifying suspicion that the person had been possessed, or worse, might become a vampire after death. What's most disturbing, however, is how society at the time responded to these differences. A child who never had the chance to grow up, to explain or defend themselves, ended up cursed even in death. And that triangular shackle wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of a deep-seated collective fear that had haunted European consciousness since the 14th century, the fear that the wrongfully dead might come back for vengeance. According to forensic anthropologist Matteo Barini of John Moores University in Liverpool, the practice of vampire burials wasn't rare in European history. As early as the 14th century, various communities developed strange burial customs to restrain the dead, driving stakes through the heart, stuffing stones into the mouth, or placing sickles over the neck. They believed that if left unsealed, the undead would first kill their loved ones, then their neighbors, and eventually the entire village. In fact, according to Polinsky's team, the child's grave was surrounded by scattered bones and the remains of a woman who had been about 6 months pregnant. That chilling scene, if visualized, would send shivers down anyone's spine, not because it looks like a horror film, but because it mirrors our primal fears of death, the unknown, and the unexplainable. Ultimately, it raises a haunting question. Was it fear itself that created the idea of vampires? The Kingdom of King David, the Slayer of Goliath. Thousands of years ago, in the sun-scorched, dust-laden Judean desert, one name echoed through religion, history, and legend alike: King David, the young shepherd who defeated the giant Goliath and later became the mighty ruler of the Israelite people, a legendary figure revered in the Bible, but whose historical existence has long sparked fierce academic debate. But now, a recent archaeological discovery has sent shockwaves through the global research community. The Kingdom of David may not have been just a myth, it may have been real. At the center of this controversial breakthrough is Professor Yosef Garfinkel, one of Israel's leading archaeologists from Hebrew University. After years of excavation and study, Garfinkel claims to have uncovered the remnants of a network of 5 ancient cities dating back to the early 10th century BCE, precisely the period in which King David is said to have ruled, according to the Bible. What's truly remarkable is that all 5 cities share a distinct architectural style: twin parallel walls encircling a central fortress, forming a unified and well-planned defensive system. Even more intriguing, all of them are located within a day's journey of Jerusalem, approximately 15 to 20 miles. So, what does this mean? If Garfinkel's claims hold true, then these cities weren't just random settlements. They were evidence of an organized kingdom, one with centralized planning, strategic defenses, and a hub of power. perhaps even the very kingdom ruled by King David, just as described in Scripture. Naturally, not everyone agrees. Some scholars were quick to criticize, arguing that Garfinkel's conclusions are premature and speculative, possibly shaped more by the desire to support biblical stories than by hard evidence. Professor Aaron Meyer, an archaeologist from Bar Ilan University, even mocked the idea, comparing it to a fisherman's tale. With every retelling, the fish gets bigger. Was it a mackerel, or has it become a blue whale? According to Meyer, while it's possible a political entity existed in Jerusalem during that time, its actual power and scale remain highly uncertain. Garfinkel, however, sees things differently. He believes that cities like Hebron, Kirbet Qeiyafa, and Soko were all part of an urban network within the Kingdom of Judah, the very seat of power that King David is said to have built. He emphasizes the meticulously planned fortifications, the interconnected roads, and the chronological alignment with biblical times. To him, it's too much to be coincidence. That's what makes this discovery so astonishing. For centuries, King David has lived in the collective imagination as a symbol, a heroic figure in stories, a sacred icon of faith, but not necessarily a real historical monarch with a tangible empire. Archaeologists opened an ancient Chinese tomb, but what was inside left them speechless. Did you know? In the world of archaeology, sometimes a groundbreaking discovery doesn't stem from massive excavations involving hundreds of experts, but from a completely accidental moment. And today's story is the clearest proof of that. It all began in the windswept, rocky terrain of the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, specifically at the foot of Mount Turkey. While working as usual, a group of quarry workers stumbled upon an oddly red-colored stone. Little did they know that this seemingly unremarkable rock would become the starting point of a journey into royal history, buried more than a millennium beneath the earth. From that small discovery, archaeologists quickly got involved and unearthed an ancient tomb located more than 33 feet below the surface. Measuring about 98 feet in length, the tomb was far more than just a burial chamber. It resembled a stone-built house, silently resting underground for centuries. But what truly left experts stunned was what lay inside. An exquisite cedar coffin, intricately carved with the image of a phoenix, the supreme symbol of Chinese royalty at the time. The coffin stood approximately 5 feet tall, nearly 8.5 feet wide, and just over 8 inches deep. Yet within that modest space rested the final remains of a woman of extraordinary status. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. When the coffin lid was finally opened, the archaeologists found themselves stepping into what felt like a frozen moment in time. Inside was a remarkably well-preserved female skeleton, lying on her back, crowned with a golden headdress, her head resting on a faintly metallic pillow, and her body wrapped in layers of rare silk fabric. Even more astonishing, the tomb had remained untouched by grave robbers for over 1,000 years. This remarkable preservation allowed researchers to gradually piece together the story of this mysterious woman. Based on the condition of the remains and the surrounding artifacts, experts concluded that the woman died between the ages of 30 and 35 and most likely belonged to the royal family. However, the lack of any inscription or tombstone identifying her posed a major challenge to further research. The remaining clues, a golden crown, a delicately carved phoenix motif, and luxurious silk coverings, all pointed to opulence and nobility, but offered no definitive confirmation of her identity. In an effort to uncover the truth about the crowned woman, the experts conducted DNA testing. And this is where history began to speak. By comparing the extracted DNA with genetic data from royal tombs of the Liao dynasty, especially that of Emperor Taizu, the founding ruler of the Khitan-led dynasty in northern China, the results were nothing short of astonishing. Analysis revealed a clear bloodline connection. And so, the true identity of the woman inside the cedar coffin was finally revealed. She was Princess Yu Lu Du Gu, the biological sister of the king and a once prominent figure in the Liao royal court, one long forgotten by history. This discovery of a princess's tomb is not only a triumph for Chinese archaeology, but also a vivid example of how modern technology, science, and relentless dedication can bring the past back to life, reviving the stories of those thought to be lost forever. Perhaps what makes this find even more memorable is not just who the deceased was, but the way fate intertwined with stone, soil, and time to create a tale so haunting and mysterious. Surely you must be thinking the same thing, right? As you can see, the world of archaeology is always like that, full of surprises from the past. And more importantly, this isn't the only discovery that has left archaeologists speechless. Over the years, there have been countless shocking and extraordinary findings, some even more mysterious, and many of which still remain unsolved to this day. So stay with me as we continue uncovering more discoveries to see what incredible breakthroughs archaeologists have made through years of tireless work. The giant tomb of the King of Chu, hidden in the mountains, the mystery of the Eastern Pyramid. One day in early February 1982, in the Lion Mountain area southeast of the Peace Bridge in Suzhou, China, a local man was simply quarrying stone as usual. But instead of unearthing valuable rocks or minerals, he accidentally opened a gateway to an ancient world, a place where a king once lived, ruled, and now rested underground for thousands of years. It was the massive tomb of King Yuan of Chu, a bold and eccentric monarch of the ancient Chu kingdom and the owner of one of the most extraordinary burial sites in Chinese history. Spanning over 7,500 square feet, the tomb was built like a fully functional underground palace on a scale that defied imagination. Inside, 15 elaborately arranged rooms were discovered: bedrooms, reception areas, kitchens, and even stables. Every part of the complex was meticulously designed, as if the king intended to continue his royal lifestyle even after death. The grandeur and intricacy of the tomb left archaeologists in awe, so much so that they nicknamed it the Eastern Pyramid. But the most surprising and amusing discovery wasn't the luxury or the vast number of artifacts. It was a single stone tablet placed right at the tomb's entrance. On it, King Yuan of Chu, whose real name was Liu Jiao, the second king of Chu, had left an unusually humorous message. Instead of employing deadly traps or fake passageways to fool tomb robbers, as many royal tombs did, he simply chose to beg. The inscription clearly pleaded, "There's nothing inside but bones. Please let me rest in peace." That single line raised a lot of questions. Was he a humorous king? Or did he truly believe that compassion could overcome greed? Whatever the reason, the inscription drew laughter from modern-day archaeologists who found the message refreshingly human, something rarely seen in the rigid and ceremonial world of ancient tombs. Ironically, despite his plea for mercy, King Yuan's tomb suffered the same fate as many others. It was looted. Numerous priceless treasures were stolen over time, yet fortunately, after several rounds of careful excavation, more than 100 rare artifacts were still recovered. These included exquisitely crafted bronze chariots, terracotta warrior statues, ancient coins, jade jewelry, and, most notably, a full-bodied jade armor. Each item symbolized supreme nobility and power. These artifacts are more than proof of the Chu dynasty's wealth. They offer a vivid glimpse into the kingdom's refined aesthetics, skilled craftsmanship, and deeply spiritual royal life. And as archaeologists delved deeper into their research, they discovered that the tomb still held many unsolved mysteries. The room layouts, wall carvings, and even the underground architecture hinted at a distinct belief system, one that was both regal and mystical in nature. King Yuan of Chu, with his peculiar personality, chose to build not just a tomb, but an underground home, embedding within it not only his wealth, but also his character, life philosophy, and perception of death. To say his tomb is not merely a resting place, but a declaration of royal immortality, the pride of a civilization, and a belief that history would one day rediscover and tell his story, even thousands of years later, isn't an exaggeration. And indeed, that story is now being told, not just through artifacts, but through the laughter and amazement of people living in the 21st century. A 1,700-year-old bottle of wine, still drinkable, found in an ancient tomb. Can you believe it? In the heart of modern Europe, where cobblestone streets wind through old towns and historic buildings whisper stories through their architecture, there still exists a relic so vivid, it defies belief. A bottle of ancient wine nearly 1,500 years old. It wasn't found in some luxurious modern wine cellar, but in the most unexpected of places, inside an ancient Roman tomb. Today, that bottle is on display at the Palatinate Museum of History in Speyer, Germany, and it continues to stir intense debate among archaeologists and scientists alike. The story began in 1867 when archaeologists excavated a tomb dating back to around 325 AD during the peak of the Roman Empire. Inside, they discovered the remains of a man and a woman. The man was believed to be someone of high social standing in Roman society, perhaps a noble or a government official. Among the luxurious objects buried with him, one item stood out above the rest: a mysterious bottle of wine. The bottle, made from yellow-green glass, holds just over 50 fluid ounces and features a handle crafted in the shape of a fish, a detail that reflects the exceptional craftsmanship of ancient Roman artisans. Now known as the Römische Wein von Speyer, or Speyer wine, it is considered the oldest known bottle of wine in the world that still exists in liquid form. But what allowed this wine to survive for nearly 2 millennia in such pristine condition? Unlike modern wine bottles sealed with cork, which deteriorates over time, this ancient bottle was sealed with a layer of beeswax and covered with a thick layer of olive oil to prevent air from entering. This clever preservation method prevented evaporation and kept the liquid intact for centuries. However, after all this time, can the contents still be called wine in the traditional sense? Experts have yet to reach a definitive answer. Initial analyses show that the liquid has changed significantly. The bottom layer appears to be a clear solution, while the top has turned into a thick, amber-brown substance with an unusual texture. Microbiologically, it might still be safe, but it certainly no longer has the familiar flavor or aroma of wine as we know it. Yet the biggest debate centers not on what the wine tastes like, but whether the bottle should even be opened at all. For years, scientists, historians, and preservationists have been unable to agree. On one hand, opening it could expose the contents to modern air, potentially destroying any remaining chemical properties and turning it into a meaningless liquid. On the other hand, leaving it sealed forever means that we may never fully understand the secrets of ancient winemaking and preservation. Ludger Tecampa, head of the preservation team for the Speyer wine, remarked, "No one can be sure what's inside. If we open it and the liquid oxidizes, everything we have could be lost forever." This tension between scientific curiosity and the irreversible loss of historical value is what makes the Speyer wine more than just an object. 2 strange skeletons found in a treasure-filled ancient tomb. Hidden among the majestic pyramids and time-worn ruins of Teotihuacan, once the seat of power for one of the most dazzling civilizations in ancient America, archaeologists made a discovery that defied all conventional understanding. It was in 2018, during the excavation of a tomb deep within the ancient city of Teotihuacan, located in present-day Mexico and recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, that experts stumbled upon one of the most brutal and enigmatic rituals of the ancient Maya. Beneath the centuries-old earth, they uncovered not only glittering golden treasures, but also 2 skeletons, initially believed to belong to elite individuals. But the shocking truth? They weren't human at all. Years of analysis have completely changed scholars' understanding of Maya religious rites. One of the skeletons belonged to an eagle, a creature revered by the Maya as a symbol of the sun, war, and divine power. But the most haunting find was the second skeleton, which belonged to a female spider monkey. What makes this discovery so unsettling isn't just the choice of animal, but the way it died. Researchers determined the spider monkey was only between 5 and 8 years old when it was buried alive. This was a clear act of sacrificial ritual, something scholars had previously believed the Maya reserved only for humans. So why would a small monkey be sacrificed in a sacred Maya ceremony? The answer might send chills down your spine. At the excavation site, archaeologists discovered more than 14,000 fragments of broken pottery, evidence of a large-scale ritual. But that wasn't all. They also uncovered a Maya mural clearly depicting a spider monkey bound in ropes, being prepared for sacrifice. This suggests the monkey wasn't merely an offering, it likely carried deep symbolic significance. To unravel the mystery, experts studied the monkey's remains and investigated its diet in the final years of life. What they found was astonishing. The monkey hadn't lived in the rainforest like others of its kind. Instead, it had been captively raised and cared for by humans, fed a diet similar to that of the Maya, including corn and chili peppers, 2 staples of their cuisine and daily life. This indicates the monkey had been raised not as a wild animal, but as a living symbol, a messenger between humans and the gods. The choice of a spider monkey, a highly intelligent, agile, and human-like creature, shows the profound complexity of Maya beliefs. This wasn't just a superstitious ritual, it was a reenactment of myth, a cosmological ceremony rooted in sacred storytelling. Teotihuacan, where the tomb was found, was once a hub of civilizations, a melting pot of faiths and ceremonial practices. In that context, the spider monkey may have represented an intermediary spirit, a being whose sacrifice would bring blessings to the community. Naked female skeletons found in a Tang Dynasty tomb. The story began on what seemed like an ordinary morning in 2018 when construction workers were building a stretch of highway in Baotou City, Inner Mongolia, China. While leveling the ground, they unexpectedly unearthed a strange structure buried deep beneath the red soil. No one could have imagined that this discovery would lead them, and us, into a historical mystery stretching back more than 1,300 years. As soon as the authorities were notified, archaeologists rushed to the site. Before them gradually emerged an ancient tomb, lying silently underground for centuries. Based on initial findings, experts determined that it was a burial site dating back to the Tang Dynasty, one of the most prosperous periods in ancient Chinese history. After completing legal procedures and initial assessments, the excavation officially began. Over the course of 6 continuous days, the team worked tirelessly through layers of thick dust and time-worn debris to reach the heart of the tomb. And then, they uncovered something that stunned everyone. A coffin placed at the center, surrounded by 4 other sets of human remains. What shocked the team even more was that 2 of the skeletons belonged to women who were completely unclothed. Not a single piece of clothing had been buried with them. What happened inside this tomb? Why were 2 women interred in such a condition? And who were the people buried here? Part of the mystery began to unravel thanks to artifacts and an inscribed tombstone discovered later. According to the engraved text, the man inside the main coffin was identified as Qin Fen, who once served as the assistant commander of the northern capital under the Anbai Protectorate, a fairly high-ranking military position during the reign of Emperor Gaozong of Tang. Qin Fen wasn't born into nobility. On the contrary, he grew up in a poor family with 5 younger siblings. His only path to rise in the rigid social hierarchy of that time was to join the military. Starting as a lowly foot soldier, or xiaozu as they were called then, Qin Fen gradually proved his talent and determination. Through numerous military achievements, he climbed the ranks in a ruthless political landscape. By the time of his death in 698 AD, Qin Fen had secured not only a prestigious title, but also left behind a tomb shrouded in mystery, one that continues to intrigue scholars to this day. However, one disturbing detail has left researchers deeply unsettled. According to the tombstone, the 4 women buried with Qin Fen were his wives and concubines, who were sacrificed to accompany him into the afterlife, per his final wishes. His son, Qin Huan, honored his father's request, allowing the ladies to follow him into the next world, along with treasures of gold, silver, pottery, and jewelry. As chilling as it sounds, this practice, known as retainer sacrifice, was not uncommon in ancient times. It appeared in China, Korea, and other early civilizations, driven by a strong belief in the afterlife. But a more unsettling question remains. Why were 2 of the women buried without clothes? This crucial detail was conspicuously absent from the tombstone's inscription, and to this day, it continues to puzzle the archaeological community. Were they executed in that condition? Was it part of a spiritual or religious ritual we no longer understand? Or could it reflect social hierarchy within Qin Fen's household, where the favor or disfavor of a powerful man could determine not only a woman's death, but also her dignity in death? There is no definitive answer. But regardless of the reason, this discovery has opened an astonishing new chapter in our understanding of Tang Dynasty culture and society. It is not just a tale of a poor man who rose to power. It is a broader reflection of belief systems, spiritual practices, and the darker side of power relations, where life and death could hinge on a single dying wish. What do you think of the tradition of retainer sacrifice? If you could turn back time, would you ask Qin Fen a single haunting question? Did you ever feel guilty for dragging those women to the grave with you? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts, because perhaps the key to this mystery lies in your perspective. Charred remains found in a 2,300-year-old tomb shock archaeologists. Some archaeological discoveries leave us in awe because of their breathtaking beauty. Others tell forgotten stories from thousands of years ago. But occasionally, there are discoveries so strange that they leave even the most seasoned experts speechless. One such discovery took place in modern-day Istanbul, a city that once stood at the crossroads of great civilizations. Here, archaeologists recently uncovered a bizarre ancient tomb dating back approximately 2,300 years. Inside the tomb, they found human remains, but not in the typical form we often see in ancient burial sites. What they uncovered was a charred human body, burned right where it lay inside the tomb. Normally, when we think of cremation rituals in history, we imagine bodies being burned, then the ashes carefully collected and buried. But this case was different. The body was placed into the tomb first and then set on fire. This reversal stunned experts and raised unsettling questions. Was this a previously undocumented ritual? Or did something go terribly wrong? An unexpected event that forced the living to act out of desperation? The research team immediately launched a deeper investigation. Through historical texts and ancient maps, they discovered that the site where the tomb was found once belonged to Chalcedon, a city that flourished during the Hellenistic period, roughly between 323 BCE and 33 BCE. Chalcedon was no obscure settlement. On the contrary, it was a vibrant trading hub located right along the Bosphorus Strait, the narrow waterway dividing Asia and Europe. Any ship wishing to enter the Black Sea had to pass through here. Chalcedon and its neighboring city Byzantion, the early name for Constantinople, which later became Istanbul, once jointly collected tolls from passing ships. Even more remarkably, this practice was backed by the Egyptian navy, then under the control of the Ptolemaic dynasty. To help you picture it, in the 3rd century BCE, Chalcedon wasn't just an economic center. It was also a focal point of military and political power in the eastern Mediterranean. Now, back to the tomb. Alongside the charred skeleton, archaeologists discovered an unfired clay cup, likely a crude ceremonial item, and a small, intact perfume bottle. These seemingly minor artifacts opened the door to a range of hypotheses. Could the perfume bottle have symbolized purity or served as a farewell offering to help guide the soul to the afterlife? Might it have been a loved one's final message of affection? According to Rahmi Asal, director of the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, this was an extremely rare discovery, one that could reshape how we understand burial customs in the region during the Hellenistic period. Burning a body inside a tomb instead of elsewhere may point to a special funerary practice or even a ritual reserved for a particular class within society. Of course, these are just theories for now. The biggest question remains unanswered. Why did ancient people choose to cremate the body directly within the tomb? Was it an exorcism ritual, a symbol of rebirth, a deeply spiritual act, or the tragic result of a catastrophic event? No one knows for sure, but one thing is certain. This 2,300-year-old tomb is far more than a resting place. It is a forgotten message, a missing piece of the mysterious puzzle that is the history of Istanbul, a city where East meets West and where myth blends into reality. Historic World War II. Ship discovered in the Pacific, a shocking find for scientists. Recently, in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, nearly 2,300 feet below the surface, where sunlight cannot reach and all traces of humanity seem to have been erased by time, archaeologists touched a poignant piece of the world's history: the severed bow of the USS New Orleans, a warship that silently witnessed the blood and tears of World War II. This ship was once a symbol of might and valor, but in November 1942, during the brutal Battle of Tassafaronga, it was struck by Japanese torpedoes, destroying nearly one-third of its hull, including the entire bow, and killing more than 180 sailors. Miraculously, despite the flooding and shattered structure, the crew refused to surrender. They fought tirelessly to keep the ship afloat, and their heroism earned them 3 prestigious Navy medals. Nearly 83 years later, thanks to modern technology like the remotely operated vehicle, ROV, Hercules, and the unmanned survey vessel Drix, an expedition team aboard the Nautilus traced the remnants of this historical wreck. Diving through hundreds of feet of pitch-black water, they finally located the lost bow section, now resting silently in Iron Bottom Sound off the coast of the Solomon Islands. This was no lucky discovery. It was the result of relentless research, poring over archived files, declassified naval maps, and heartfelt testimonies from survivors. Frank Thompson, one of the leading archaeologists from the U.S. Navy, shared that reviewing sailor diaries and sworn statements helped the team identify specific areas to search. And then, they found it. A lone anchor resting on the seafloor, followed by the unmistakable structural lines of the USS New Orleans emerging through the deep, as if time had never moved. This discovery wasn't just a scientific mission, it was an emotional journey. The entire world bore witness to the moment of rediscovery through a 24-hour live stream. Experts from countries once at war, Japan, Germany, and Russia, watched together, proving that history isn't just about remembering pain, but also about healing, understanding, and honoring those who came before us. Finding the USS New Orleans is more than an archaeological achievement. It is a powerful reminder of courage and sacrifice, of those who gave their lives in the depths of the ocean to defend their ideals. And today, we become the witnesses to a resurrection of a lost fragment of the 20th century's soul, buried for decades beneath the waves. But this isn't the end. This is just one of many incredible discoveries made in recent years by brave archaeologists and explorers. From the ocean floor to deadly deserts, dark mountain caves to deep underground chambers, they've uncovered mysteries beyond imagination. Curious to know what they found? Don't take your eyes off the screen. Join me as we continue this journey of discovery right now. The 80 skeletons in shackles, found in ancient Greek tomb, a shocking mystery tied to a coup 2,600 years ago. An ancient cemetery in Greece, thought to have lain undisturbed for millennia beneath layers of earth and stone, suddenly became the epicenter of archaeological attention after a chilling discovery. While construction workers were building a modern opera house and national library in the Faliro Delta area, a coastal region near Athens, they accidentally opened a gateway to the past. Buried underground were 80 skeletons, all adult males, ranging from young adults to middle-aged. But the most haunting detail wasn't the number. It was the iron shackles still clamped around their wrists, as if these men were condemned prisoners, eternally bound between the realms of the living and the dead. What first drew experts' attention was the burial style. Some of the bodies were neatly arranged in rows, laid out straight and orderly. Others were stacked on top of each other, their limbs twisted, jaws gaping open, as if caught mid-scream in their final moments. Yet none of the skeletons showed signs of violent trauma, and their teeth were almost perfectly preserved, indicating that they had died while still strong and healthy. This ruled out the possibility that they were executed slaves or common criminals. On the contrary, the respectful way they were interred raised disturbing questions. Who were they? Why were they shackled? And what caused them all to die at the same time? Though definitive answers remain elusive, 2 ceramic jars found alongside the skeletons helped archaeologists date the burial to the 7th century BCE, over 2,600 years ago. The site, part of the ancient Faliro Delta necropolis, spans more than 110 acres and once held at least 1,500 burials, including infants buried in ceramic vessels and adults in stone coffins. But the group of 80 shackled men stood apart. Unlike other scattered burials, these men were laid to rest together, in a purposeful, systematic manner, suggesting a layered and deliberate act, full of meaning yet to be fully decoded. One compelling historical theory quickly surfaced, tied to a controversial figure from ancient Athenian history, Cylon. An aristocrat and former Olympic champion, Cylon attempted a coup in 632 BCE to seize power in Athens. Backed by his father-in-law, the tyrant of Megara, Cylon led a force into the city. But the uprising failed disastrously. While Cylon himself escaped and sought sanctuary in a sacred temple at the Acropolis, his followers weren't as lucky. According to several ancient accounts, they were captured and executed in secret. Could these 80 shackled skeletons be the remains of Cylon's supporters, men who fought under his command and were killed after the rebellion collapsed? That question is slowly being explored through ongoing DNA testing. Archaeologist Stella Chrysolaki noted that if the DNA results show shared genetic markers and similar ages, it could confirm that these were indeed young, strong men, perhaps even idealistic warriors, captured and buried alive as a brutal form of punishment, both to exact revenge and to send a warning to future dissenters. However, not all scholars agree with the executed rebels hypothesis. Some propose a more radical theory. Could this have been a mass human sacrifice during a time of intense political and religious upheaval in ancient Greece? In many ancient civilizations, live sacrifices were not uncommon, offered to appease the gods or secure peace for the city-state. In that context, the iron shackles, seen as symbols of guilt, might have actually been part of a sacred ritual that we no longer understand. Whether they were fallen warriors, executed traitors, or ritual offerings, the shackled skeletons remain a chilling enigma. One thing, however, is certain. These men once lived, once fought, and were ultimately swept up in the ruthless tides of history. Today they speak to us, not through words, but through bones grown cold and silent scars carved into their remains, waiting for the modern world to listen and understand. Perhaps deep beneath the ancient soil, other stories like this still lie hidden, waiting for curious hands to unearth them, and for brave eyes willing to face the truth, no matter how haunting it may be. Do you feel the same? Or do you have an even bolder theory? Let me know in the comments below. Nabta Playa, the 11,000-year-old mystery that could rewrite the origins of ancient Egyptian civilization. You may have heard of the pyramids of Giza, the tombs of the pharaohs, or the giant Sphinx statues, but few know that deep within the arid Nubian desert, about 62 miles west of Abu Simbel, lies an archaeological site that has left scientists stunned. Nabta Playa. This isn't just another excavation site, it's the remnants of an advanced urban community that existed over 11,000 years ago, a time when much of the world was still living in hunter-gatherer societies. What makes Nabta Playa truly remarkable is that it could be the missing link in the formation of ancient Egyptian civilization. Hundreds of prehistoric graves, strange engraved stelae, and a system of megalithic structures aligned along a strict north-south axis serve as undeniable evidence that the people of Nabta Playa did not live by instinct alone. They had a complex belief system and a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. In the northern area of the site, archaeologists discovered a cluster of 12 sandstone megaliths, more than just upright stones. Beneath them were burial pits containing the remains of cattle, cows, goats, and sheep. One burial in particular stood out, a young calf interred in a pit about 26 feet wide and nearly 3 feet deep. Why would ancient people go to such great lengths to bury a single animal? It appears that Nabta Playa wasn't just a cemetery, it was a sacred ceremonial center where livestock was ritually sacrificed. The slaughter and burial of animals, especially cattle, suggests an early form of religious practice involving divine worship. Some scholars have drawn connections between this and the later cult of the cow goddess Hathor in ancient Egypt, who symbolized life, love, beauty, and fertility. But if Hathor didn't emerge until millennia later, could the rituals at Nabta Playa have actually been the origin of that belief system? Is it mere coincidence, or a long-forgotten connection waiting to be uncovered? The mystery deepens. At Nabta Playa, archaeologists also found what they call rock slabs, mushroom-shaped stone formations naturally formed by thousands of years of erosion. Curiously, these rocks were buried several feet beneath layers of desert clay and sand, completely invisible to the naked eye at the time. This raises a fundamental question. How did the people of Nabta Playa even find them? One theory suggests they stumbled upon the rocks while digging wells. But could such chance discoveries truly lead to the creation of elaborate carvings on buried stones? Once the locations were identified, the people positioned the convex sides of the rocks to face north, then erected large stone blocks on top of them. Some were even carved into shapes resembling cows or other animals, held in place with chalks and filled in with sediment. These structures are estimated to date from around 5,500 to 5,000 BCE. Radiocarbon dating was used to determine the age of the surrounding features, but the reason why these ancient people created such monuments remains an unsolved riddle. Perhaps they were primitive stone calendars used for tracking seasons, or symbols of religion and cosmology far beyond what we understand today. Then, this civilization vanished. Around 5,000 years ago, the climate changed, the harsh desert returned, and the people of Nabta were forced to abandon what had once been a thriving ceremonial hub. Shockingly, archaeologist J. McKim Malville proposed that the inhabitants of Nabta Playa may have later settled in the Nile Valley, laying the groundwork for the birth of ancient Egyptian cities and culture. Just 500 years after Nabta collapsed, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, one of Egypt's earliest monumental structures, was built. This may have been the result of a well-organized migration of a knowledgeable people with expertise in astronomy, cosmology, and religious ritual, all of which the people of Nabta Playa clearly possessed. The mother and child skeletons, locked in an eternal embrace for 6,000 years. In the peaceful town of Nieuwegein, in the province of Utrecht, the Netherlands, once home to Stone Age hunter-gatherer communities, archaeologists unearthed a secret buried beneath the earth for over 6,000 years. It wasn't a treasure of gold or precious gems, nor the grave of a powerful leader, but rather a moment frozen in time, the remains of a woman lying still, her arms wrapped tightly around a small infant. This astonishing discovery was made during an archaeological excavation conducted by RAAP, a research organization based in Leiden. As the team excavated a Stone Age burial site, they uncovered 4 skeletons, one of which was a woman whose right arm was bent in an unusual position. Unlike the typical straight parallel posture seen in burials from that period, her arm curved inward, as if holding something. With meticulous care and patience, the archaeologists removed layers of compacted clay and gradually revealed a heart-wrenching truth. Nestled within the woman's embrace were the fragile bones of a newborn, estimated to have been only a few months old at the time of death. Hella Molthoff, a member of the research team, recalled the emotional impact of the moment they saw the baby's tiny milk teeth, miraculously preserved after 6 millennia. She noted how eerily similar they looked to the baby teeth that modern parents often save as keepsakes. That resemblance made the distance of thousands of years feel strangely close, as if the love of a Stone Age mother had somehow endured across time in that silent embrace. Scientists estimate that the woman was between 27 and 30 years old at the time of her death. Based on the positioning of the remains and the fragments of the infant's bones, researchers believe this was indeed a mother and her child buried together. To confirm the biological relationship, the team conducted DNA testing. Although the results have yet to be released, all signs point to one of the oldest archaeological records of maternal love ever discovered. The posture of the woman holding her baby has raised new questions about the funerary practices of the hunter-gatherer communities that once lived along the Vecht River. While previous research has provided insight into their daily lives, what they ate, how they lived, where they traveled, almost nothing was known about how they dealt with death, especially the loss of a child. That eternal embrace could represent a belief in an afterlife, an inseparable bond between mother and child, or simply a profoundly human instinct that transcends all cultures. The 3,500-year-old Tomb of Gold, an ancient warrior, resting among timeless treasures. In the arid lands of ancient Pylos, once the beating heart of Mycenaean Greece, a secret lay buried in silence for more than 3,500 years, until the modern light of archaeology brought it back into the world. It wasn't the ruins of a crumbling palace or a forgotten temple to the gods. It was a tomb, one of the most extraordinary burial discoveries in Greek archaeological history. What made it remarkable wasn't just its age, but what lay within. A Bronze Age warrior interred not in mere soil like most of his time, but surrounded by a breathtaking hoard of gold, silver, and precious stones. A discovery that stunned the world, left scientists speechless, and seemed to freeze time in awe of a distant past. The excavation took 5 years and was led by 2 American archaeologists, Jack Davis and Sharon Stocker, a husband and wife team whose lifelong passion for ancient history brought them from the University of Cincinnati to the heart of Greece. Their goal was simple at first: to uncover fragments that might shed light on everyday life in Mycenaean times. But as they dug deeper, they unearthed something no one had dared to imagine: a tomb untouched by time, and a warrior buried like a king, encircled by treasures beyond belief. The man in the grave, likely a powerful warrior or perhaps a local ruler, was buried around 1450 BCE at the height of the Bronze Age, when the Mycenaean civilization was on the rise. From the earliest moments of the excavation, the archaeologists were astonished by what they found. Over 3,500 artifacts surrounded the skeleton: golden armor, finely crafted weapons, intricately carved rings, necklaces, and ornaments fashioned from silver, bronze, and rare gems such as carnelian, lapis lazuli, and even lapis imported from distant regions like Afghanistan. This was no ordinary burial. It was proof of wealth, yes, but also of international influence. or at least strong connections to trade routes that extended far beyond the Aegean world. Among the thousands of items uncovered, many displayed craftsmanship so advanced it forced experts to reevaluate what they thought they knew about the technical and artistic capabilities of the Bronze Age. Some pendants bore mythological scenes, others featured carved seals depicting battle rituals and religious ceremonies. Evidence of an artistic legacy that defied time. Beyond material value, each item offered a clue, a window into the beliefs, social structures, and cultural practices of a civilization long thought lost. According to Dr. James Wright, a leading scholar in Greek archaeology, the tomb's location held special meaning. It lay at the crossroads of two great cultures, mainland Greece and the flourishing Minoan civilization of Crete. This explains why so many of the artifacts bear the hallmarks of Cretan art, from spiral motifs to sacred religious symbols. The tomb is more than a grave. It is a living testament to the cultural exchange and mutual influence between two of the ancient world's most brilliant societies. The true value of this tomb doesn't lie in the amount of gold buried with the warrior, but in the untold stories carried by each object. A single mask may reveal ancient funeral rites. A sword might bear the scars of legendary battles. A bracelet could symbolize power, faith, or identity. Every artifact carries the breath of a lost era, an era when people didn't just survive, but lived with artistry, belief, and a fierce desire to leave their mark on the future. A 2,000-year-old treasure, discovered beneath the streets of Rome. What began as an ordinary morning at a construction site at the foot of Aventine Hill in Rome quickly turned into the beginning of a monumental archaeological discovery. Why do I say that? Because while workers were reinforcing a luxury apartment complex to make it earthquake-resistant, they stumbled upon a strange underground layer deep beneath the ground. At first, they assumed it was just the remains of an old foundation, but when an ancient stone doorway was pried open, all doubts vanished. What lay before them was a magnificent Roman structure buried for over 2,000 years, yet preserved in stunning detail, a hidden villa resting beneath the modern city. This wasn't some remote, isolated location. In fact, it sat directly beneath an old apartment block where hundreds of residents had lived for decades, completely unaware that an ancient world had been sleeping quietly just below their feet. When this door to the past was accidentally opened, it revealed not only a fragment of the Roman Empire's glorious history, but also left archaeologists around the world astonished by how incredibly well-preserved the site was. The villa was built in classic Roman architectural style, grand in scale and intricate in detail, down to the very last brick. Most astonishing of all was its flooring, 6 distinct layers, stacked through time, all covered in elaborate mosaic artworks. These mosaics were made from billions of polished micro-marbles, placed with a level of precision that was typically reserved for imperial construction. And it wasn't just the floors. The walls too were adorned with mosaic panels and slabs of rare marble, glimmering like they were installed yesterday. Surrounding the villa, archaeologists found a collection of ancient marble busts, still intact in form and detail, powerful visual evidence of the wealth and status of the villa's former owner. Going deeper into the architecture, experts believe the villa dates back to the Roman Republic era, roughly between 509 and 27 BCE, a golden age of political power and artistic achievement in Roman history. According to Dr. Daniela Porro, one of Rome's top cultural heritage experts, the richness and sophistication of the interior decor strongly suggest that this home once belonged to an extremely powerful figure, possibly someone closely connected to the royal family or high-ranking nobility of ancient Rome. But beyond the beauty of its architecture, what truly shocked the archaeological world was the mystery of how such a remarkable villa had been forgotten. Based on geological and archaeological studies, researchers discovered that the ground beneath the structure had suffered multiple collapses, especially beginning in the 2nd century CE. The cause? A network of artificial underground cavities created by centuries of stone mining. The newest layer of the villa's floor had even sunk nearly 3.3 feet compared to the rest of the structure, causing widespread damage that eventually led to the site's abandonment and burial. But the story of this ancient marvel doesn't end there. After its discovery, BNP Paribas Real Estate, the company that owns the apartment complex above, partnered with the city of Rome to invest over $3.25 million USD into restoration efforts. Their goal wasn't just to preserve it, but to share it with the public. Soon, this underground Roman villa will open its doors as a private museum, with ticket prices around $11 USD. Visitors will be able to walk through its halls, witness its mosaics up close, and experience the world of ancient Rome, right where history was once made. So if you're a history lover or an explorer at heart, this is one golden opportunity you absolutely can't miss. Dear friends, and just like that, the mystery of the 2,000-year-old treasure beneath the streets of Rome has come to a close. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming discoveries. Until next time, goodbye and see you soon.